3B by Ian Flynn. We start out at the Mystic Ruins jungle, where the text box lampshades that if it continued seeing peace forever, how good of a story would that be? That's a nice self-aware moment, especially since it's kept to the narration. After Big talks about the SA1 adaptation of Froggy, so I guess this takes place directly after the Sonic Adventure adaptation, there's an explosion behind them, and Bean demands the prawns from him, acting loud and crazy to an even greater extent than when he first showed up in the official comic, as he seems really threatening here, like a total maniac. He says that threatening people bombs just his way of saying hello. There's a kablam, he tells someone to get over here, and we see someone in silhouette coughing with fire over their head. Somehow still alive. He's Bark the polar bear. Oh, so this is where Flynn first had his idea of how he writes Bark and Bean. That explains it better because they act completely differently in Other M. Bark's even a mute, like here. Big says, "I'm Big," to introduce himself, and Bean says musically, "Yeah, I can see that, but who are you?" Big says, "Big," again. Play a clever alteration of who's on first, who's on second. Is this gonna anger him into throwing a bomb at him? Bean snarls and says, "Listen, if you got handed one of those little form thingies they give you at the DMV or something, and you had to fill in that little blank at the top of the paper, what would you write there?" I love seeing Bean get really angry. I don't think I ever saw that in the official comic, aside from one time he yelled at Fang in Touch Team Tango. He's gotta be angry a lot more. I've got the biggest smile on my face right now, and even when I was typing it I did. Somehow Big doesn't understand what he means. I felt like that was pretty forced. Maybe he should have said that he doesn't know what the DMV is. I don't even know what it is. Something to do with cars? Bean should have said, "What would you write as your name?" asking him his name right away. Oh, finally he asked for his name, all angrily like, wait, what? I guess Bark can talk here. He's the only sane man deadpanning what Big's name is. This is a much better role for his character than him never talking, because this way we actually use his character because he's got a personality, being a serious deadpan foil to Bean, which gives them a genuine dynamic rather than just letting Bean run wild and only Fang is irritated by him, and he's irritated rather than just deadpan, which is a lot funnier. Because when a character's irritated, then it kind of tells the audience something's wrong, like how the Chaotix are always irritated at Charmy and Heroes. It becomes uncomfortable, also Fleetway. Sadly, we get some forced comedy again because when Big calls his pet Froggy rather than Frog, for some reason we get the exact same problem as with Big's name, even though it's pretty obvious that it's his name. You don't call regular frogs Froggy. Good, we cut ahead. Fang threatens a woman because she claims to be the best treasure hunter of them all, and she's easy to track. Since she attacks him, it's clear that she was luring him into a trap, providing a good explanation for why she was so easy to track. Why did she say Fang's still green? He was never green. This is a great lighthearted story though. It shows Flynn as a fan comic writer was good at lighthearted stories that feel right in place and Archie, while Other M was a comic he took seriously. We cut away from Rouge's fight because that would have been interesting to see, although it's in black and white, so I'd have a hard time interpreting it anyways. And since we never see them fight again, I have to wonder what the point was. Bean and Big make small talk introducing each other. We never saw Bean and Big interact in the official comic. Big explains that all he does is fish all day alone, and Bean naturally thinks that's boring and shouts that they have to save him because he needs some serious excitement in his life. I like seeing the side of him. I mean, Bean would be a thrill seeker. Big remembers chaos, implying that this is why he doesn't want excitement that much, and Bean finally gives a good reason for being here. He's searching for the fabled gold Chaos Emerald. It took a while for me to get that it was Bean saying, and if my oversized buddy here could talk, I'm sure he'd agree some company would be nice. This is because the text box's connector wasn't directly connected and attached to Bean, and since Bark clearly spoke earlier, it makes no sense that Bean would talk as if Bark could never talk. For some reason, Big thinks that by getting the emerald he could get his good luck charm back, when we never saw any indication that him having an emerald gave him good luck. For some reason again, Bean assumes that Big knew the emerald could grant wishes, a totally separate thing from it granting luck, keeping bad things from happening to you. Big asks Froggy for advice, and it just croaks a whole bunch as if it's trying to speak, highlighting how bizarre it is that there's a realistic animal that can't talk right next to a bunch of animals that can. I still think it'd be funnier if Froggy spoke with a posh British accent. Then they'd have a genuine dynamic together and Froggy would be a character. Big agrees to go with Bean because, predictably, he for some reason understood what he was saying. It wouldn't be hard to just say Big can read his mind. Bean says, "All right, onward," goes the wrong way briefly, causing Bark to snark, "It's the other way, Bean." And he says, "Right, onward." Yeah, Bark definitely works better being able to talk. What was he thinking making him a mute? Then we see an owl overlooking Big menacingly, and I eventually wondered if he was actually a badnik spying for Eggman. He is. Not that it matters because this never had an actual sequel to it, and I think it would have worked just fine as a one-shot. So really, the sequel hook was totally worthless and just rubbed salt in the wound. This issue was by Ian Flynn long before he got hired for the main comic. And I wouldn't be surprised if they hired him based off this, because this tone fits right in with Archie Sonic. This is where he first wrote Bean as the loud-mouthed crazy guy who threatens with bombs just as a way to say hello. Though I find him even better here, because he feels really threatening since the first time he showed up he threatened to blow up Big yelling about prawns. Plus he looks more tall here. While in the Archie comic he looks the size of a kid Mobian, so his insanity isn't as funny as it could be to me, because he comes off as a kid, and kids are more expected to talk in a kooky way and be excitable. Plus, Bark was actually allowed to talk, letting it be the deadpan foil to Bean talking some sense into him, being quite an audience surrogate, as Bean doesn't get what Big's name is, leading to a really charming joke. Eventually it turns out there's a very good reason for Bean being here, as searching for an emerald, rather than him being here just on a meta reason of, I want a story about Big and Bean interacting, which never actually happened in Archie Sonic. Well, I don't know about the reboots, and don't tell me either, I don't want to know. The point is, this was a great, lighthearted story, and while I did say for some reason a lot, which is typical of Flynn, it had enough charm in it to remind me of why I liked early Flynn to begin with.